Lessons are a really hot topic around this time of year. Whether you just got your first bass for Christmas and you're wanting to learn, or maybe you're making a New Year's resolution to actually do something with your life instead of play video games all the time, and you want to learn how to play bass. Whatever your reasoning, the internet has a lot of options. In fact, maybe too many options. But I thought it would be a great idea if somebody like me with a lot of playing experience would just go through and speed run a bunch of these beginner courses, figure out which ones are good, which ones are bad, and review them. Seems easy enough, right? So about a year ago, I set out to do just that, and I started with Fender Play because at the time they had a 7-day free trial, and I figured free is good, so let's start there. And what I found was not what I expected. Fender Play starts off with a short questionnaire asking you about your goals, your current skill level, and what kind of music you want to play. I answer all these questions like a total noob and got to work. As expected, the videos start out with really basic stuff. What all the various parts of your bass are called, how to tune it, how to hold it. But what I didn't expect is that every little 4-minute lesson would be handled by a different teacher. It kind of felt like I'd be introduced to one person who would teach me what to do with my left hand, and then 2 minutes later, I'd get introduced to a completely different person who would tell me what to do with my right hand. And I found that a little bit jarring. Like, it just felt so odd to me that they couldn't get the same teacher for more than 3 or 4 minutes of instruction, because all of these lessons seemed to follow a pretty logical progression. But that alone wasn't what bothered me so much. What bothered me was that no matter how often the instructor changed, the way they spoke didn't.
We need an instrument cable to plug in our bass to the amplifier.
To tighten the string, or raise the pitch, turn the knob away from you.
Let's check out the Rolling Stones' classic hit, Sympathy for the Devil. We're going to focus on the riff using a one-finger plucking technique.
Like, there was just no personality or character whatsoever. It kind of gave me like this Stepford Wives sort of vibe.
Am I the only one who finds all of this more than a little disturbing?
But before I get too ahead of myself, yes, Fender Play is extremely well produced. Everything is very nicely shot, everything is scripted to the syllable, and the information is impossible to misunderstand. It's also incredibly boring. Like, I just don't feel like I could come up with a less exciting way to teach rock music if I tried. In an attempt to cater to anyone and everyone, Fender has produced the most corporate and lifeless lessons I have ever seen. Again, they're really good quality. I'm not denying that part of it. Everything is really well explained, and they get you into learning songs and actual music as quickly as feasible. But I just can't recommend Fender Play because it's just not very fun. I truly wanted to evaluate these lessons in a way that would help people put their money in the right place and not just help them learn how to play bass, but learn to love the instrument. But it's really hard to find that passion when the people that you're learning from definitely look the part, but just kind of feel like they're on their 18th take and they'd rather be anywhere else.
We're going to talk about doubling single notes and supporting chord progressions. So make sure you're in tune. You're in tune, right?
Yeah.
I'm in tune. Let's get started.
Don't tell anyone this, but I happen to know somebody who worked on these lessons, and what they told me is that they had a really hard time recruiting qualified bass teachers. So much so that they would often pull in guitar players to fill in when they couldn't find anybody. And obviously you want actual bass players to teach your bass lessons. But if your bass teachers are getting more interesting or better paying work elsewhere, then what are you doing?
What money?
There's also the motivation behind why Fender Play exists, and I found this part fascinating. Like, there's this interview from 2019 where the Fender CEO, Andy Mooney... By the way, just don't trust an Andy. They're always bad news, all the time. Anyway, he was quoted as saying this: "As an industry, we don't have a problem attracting new entrants. We have a member retention issue." Weird way to say it, but what Fender's research found is that 90% of players abandon the instrument before they even hit a year. That is a staggering statistic. If you happen to be in that 10% of players who's been playing for longer than a year, go ahead and pat yourself on the back, because that is an impressive achievement. Like, that's pretty close to the number of people who have gotten all of the achievements in Elden Ring, which is a really hard video game. Mooney made this observation in a new interview that focused heavily on his company's Fender Play and new Fender Song services, which are aimed at changing how players begin learning on the instrument and also how they continue their journey and become more engaged with the instruments. And I think that that is a worthy goal. In fact, that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. I really hope that the videos that I'm making here are sparking joy in people and helping you learn the instrument and stay engaged with it and to just stick with it and love it. I want everyone to understand and appreciate music the way I do because it has benefited my life in so many ways. I've traveled to interesting places, I've made lifelong friendships, I've made actually some good money gigging. Like, it's a cool hobby to be a part of. But that's not why Fender wants you to keep playing music. We did the math. The 10% of the salmon that make it through the dam have a lifetime value of $10,000 each, Mooney said. They buy 5 to 7 guitars, they buy multiple amps, they drive the hardware side of the business. We felt that if we could reduce the abandonment rate by just 10%, we could double the size of the industry. Now, Fender is a business that wants your money. Like, that's obvious, right? But to be reduced to just a set of pockets that they want to reach into feels pretty bad. They figure that if they can get you to keep playing music, you'll keep buying music gear. And if the lessons you're taking are Fender lessons, you'll probably keep buying Fender products. And I know that that's probably the most cynical way to look at it, but having seen their lessons firsthand, it's hard to look at it any other way. Because if their goal truly is to just help people learn the instrument and stick to it, then their lessons just don't do a very good job of that. Again, Fender Play is very well put together, and I do believe that if you put in the work, those lessons will help you learn. But I think they largely missed the mark of making music fun, and instead it just felt like a chore. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, obviously beginner lessons are going to be boring to an experienced player, but I just don't think that's true because I watch plenty of beginner lessons on YouTube, and I think that there is a way to make them both informational and engaging, and Fender Play just doesn't do that. After a few grueling sessions of trying to force my way through Fender Play, I ended up getting busy with other musical projects, making other YouTube videos, and I just lost interest completely. And it wasn't until I got auto-charged for the second time, so much for getting it done within the free trial, that I decided to just call it quits, and I abandoned this whole review project altogether. I didn't start out playing bass, or even guitar. My first instrument was piano, and I took piano lessons for about 10 years from the time I was 8 until I graduated high school. And once upon a time, I was actually pretty good at it. I attribute quite a lot of that to my mom, who was very strict about practice, but also to my really wonderful piano teacher. Mrs. Allen was this spunky middle-aged woman who had boundless energy and this infectious enthusiasm about music, and she had a way of motivating people in such a way to just bring out the best in them. Every week we would drive like 45 minutes to go to her house where me and all 6 of my siblings would take piano lessons from her. We'd start every lesson by opening up our practice binder, and she'd check our practice time, and if you had done 5 days of 30 minutes of practice, you'd get to choose like a treat out of the jar or whatever. And then every once in a while she would do fish days where she'd put a cup up on the piano, and then every time that you did something that she could like praise you for, she would put a Swedish fish in the cup for you. And she was just looking for things to praise you for, and so you'd get that cup full by the end of your lesson and you'd be feeling pretty good about yourself. And you never knew when fish day was going to happen, so there was this kind of internal pressure to do well like all the time. And to be clear, none of this was about the candy. It was absolutely not about the candy. It was about putting in the work and getting recognized for it. Learning music is a very personal and sometimes a lonely endeavor, and motivating yourself to just, hammer out that one tricky section over and over and over again can take a lot of hours of repetitious practice. Certainly there are some intrinsic rewards for doing that kind of thing, but having somebody else who is just as invested in your success as you are can make all the difference. It's the difference between quitting before your first year and being a lifelong student of music. You become a person with discipline and attention to detail, a person with talent, the type of person who has the fortitude to stick to something even though it's hard. I really can't thank Mrs. Allen enough, because while she did succeed in teaching a snot-nosed, video game-obsessed kid how to play piano, she did a lot more than that. This might be a little melodramatic, but I am the person I am today because of those music lessons. For as long as I live, I'm going to remember her cheering me on when I did well and calling me out when I didn't practice, but most of all, just being this massively positive influence in my life. I remember this one time where I was playing through a song and she stopped me and she said, "Andrew, you have wonderful natural rhythm, but you still have to count. Now, I know not everyone can afford a private teacher or will just be as lucky as I was to have Mrs. Allen in my life, but I do know that you will never, ever get that from something like Fender Play. Now, unfortunately, I never did get around to checking out the other learning platforms like Bass Buzz or Talking Bass or Scott's Bass Lessons or any of the other half a dozen of them out there, but I still think I learned quite a lot from this experience, and I feel like I can offer some insight that might help you in making your decision if you're trying to decide which one to go with. Find an instructor who matches your personality and your energy, and then find a way to reward or incentivize your success. Most of these guys have free YouTube videos, and if you just watch those, you can kind of get a sense of what they're like as a teacher. For example, Josh is really goofy. He's really funny, I think. I find him incredibly entertaining. But I also know that not everyone is going to resonate with that kind of humor, and that's totally fine, because on the opposite side, you've got Talking Bass, which is definitely a lot more dry, but way more straightforward. Regardless of which one you go with, I just hope you do stick with it. Because while music isn't always the most fun thing, like it can be incredibly frustrating and difficult at times, but it can be one of the most rewarding things that you'll ever do. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video and you had a good time, do consider supporting me on Patreon, and I will see you on the next video. AMP out.